Hello, everyone, and thanks for hanging out with us for the Behind the Numbers Weekly Listen, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Newstar. This is the Friday show that reviews the most shocking media news stories of the week. I'm your host, Marcus Johnson. In today's show, Amazon's home robot.
I don't know if putting an iPad on top of a Roomba is really gonna get people to shell out $1,000.
The creator economy.
I wonder if we're going to get to a point soon where there's going to be more people making videos for TikTok and YouTube than there are people investigating truth in the world.
Brick and mortar's share of retail.
Retailers are just increasingly going to have to pursue the gold standard of the omni-channel customer experience.
YouTube expands its social commerce efforts. The real meaning of freedom at work. And an explanation of who you've been dreaming about. Join me for today's episode. We have three people. Let's meet them. We start with one of our senior analysts. Her name is Audrey Schomer.
Hi, Marcus.
Hello, Audrey. Thanks for joining. We're also joined by another senior analyst. His name is Ross Benish. He covers TV and video.
Hey, Marcus.
Hey, buddy. And finally, we have our retail and e-commerce analyst. You know him as Blake Drosh.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, chap. There he is. There are three folks for you. What do we have in store? Well, same as normal. We start with the story of the week. We're talking about Amazon's home robot. Can this be a fourth screen of sorts, perhaps? Maybe, maybe not. We move to our second segment, the game of the week, where our contestants, Audrey, Blake, and Ross, go head-to-head, try and give us the best takeaway they possibly can from each of the four stories to win the championship belt. We then move to working from somewhere, our third segment, where we talk about what it's like to work from somewhere. And finally, dinner party data, where we discuss some interesting things we've just recently learned in the fourth segment. We start with segment number one, story of the week, Amazon's home robot. Amazon's long-awaited home assistant robot starting at $1,000 is here, writes Dan Seifert of The Verge. Say hello to Astro, an Alexa show on wheels. The home robot you have to request an invite to be able to buy at the moment. It is shaped like a small bread maker with giant wheels either side and a 10-inch screen for a face with eyes on it. It stands at 2 feet high, weighs 20 pounds, and has a small payload area in the back to carry up to 4 pounds, 2 kilograms of cargo using cup holders or a bin. Once you get it, you can do all sorts. It starts by mapping out your floor plan so it can obey commands to go to a specific room, and it can recognize faces and deliver items to a specific person. It can play music, can show you the weather, answer questions, be used for video calls. It can always keep you in the frame of those video calls as it follows you around. It can show you what's going on inside your home. It can roam around the house whilst you aren't there to make sure everything's okay. It can raise its 12 megapixel periscope camera up to 42 inches high to show you whether you've turned off the stove. It can use third-party accessories to record data like blood pressure as well. It's designed to learn your habits, so if you spend most of the time using it in the kitchen, it will park itself there. And Astro has a charging dock it automatically attaches itself to with a full charge, taking 45 minutes and giving you 2 hours of motion before it needs charging again. Folks, initial reactions to this new device, which got a lot of coverage, surprisingly to me at least, from Amazon. Do we need it?
It seems kind of niche for the time being.
It does indeed.
I do. I mean, the other thing that they said is that there's a limited invite-only launch. So part of me is wondering, who that invite-only group ends up being. Who are the people they think that should be having this in their homes first?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it is it's a bit niche, but it is, as I explained, it's an Alexa on wheels, which is their smart speaker, digital assistant lives in their smart speaker, the Echo devices, and 31% of American internet users have a smart speaker. 43% of millennials, 36% of Gen X, so younger folks, over-index. But do you need one on wheels, I guess is the question.
Well, I live in a studio apartment, so I certainly don't need an Alexa. All I need is one Alexa for the room. And it sort of begs the question, it doesn't go upstairs either. So people who have a house, doesn't really work for them either because it's still limited to one floor, which I think speaks sort of broadly to who is this product for at this juncture. If it can start doing cooler things, then I think it could maybe have a more of an applicable value proposition to a wider group of people. But as it is, I think it's really just going to be, you're going to get your crowd of, first adopters for tech who are sort of into the, gimmick of the first wave of things. But I don't know if the putting an iPad on top of a Roomba is really gonna like get people to shell out $1,000.
Well, you mentioned a Roomba, so the RoboVac. I'm surprised it can't clean the floor, this new device, because there's a lot of utility in that. And I was wondering, how many people have a RoboVac. Statista estimates there's over 14 million US households have a RoboVac in 2018. So it's going to be a lot higher today. It seems easy to justify the price if you're buying something that can do the job of the thing you already have, and you could get rid of the RoboVac you have, and now you've got a RoboVac that also can play music or monitor your home whilst you're not there. RoboVac's typically between $150 to $500. You shell out a bit more and you can, get some more features within your new RoboVac. So I'm surprised it can't do that at a very basic level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking as someone who recently acquired a Roomba over the last year, and I will say that my Roomba is actually quite stupid and doesn't learn over time, despite popular opinion, maybe. She always spins in slow, redundant circles around the room, and her little blower to access new dust is constantly just blowing it further away. So I don't know if it necessarily adding cleaning capabilities to this makes it that much more valuable to people.
It sounds broken. Are we sure it's not?
No, I don't know. I think it's just a product failure.
This is comforting news if you're worried about the robots taking over. Good to know.
Unless we have a lot of space, your robots could really add up if all of them only have one function.
Yeah. That's a good point, which is, I guess, why they're trying to put it all into this one device. There are a couple of use cases they point out. Amazon, Alexa Guard integration, so it alerts you to sounds of a broken window or smoke alarm, like an Echo speaker, that can already do that. And then also they say it can be used for remote monitoring for elderly relatives. So I don't know if you need it in your relative's home, but you could have this in a care home of some description. It's got facial recognition, so it can provide status notifications to caregivers, remind folks to take their medication, and also to remind them to check their blood pressure. It also is integrated with Alexa Together, which provides access to emergency helplines and supports fall detection as well. It seems like if you get one of these, you're going to be doing old things in new ways. You're going to probably be playing music or listening to podcasts and have it follow you around the room whilst, you ask it to set reminders, timers, maybe take pictures. I guess it's probably more eye level with children, so it might be good for taking pictures of kids, which people do already. Ben Wood, chief analyst at CCS Insight, he says, I believe the Astro robot will sell out in minutes when it becomes available in the US market. It depends how many they've got to sell, I guess, but that seems surprisingly optimistic, especially from Mr. Wood. Do you think this can become another interface, folks? Another screen that we use semi-regularly, like a fourth screen, if you will.
There's kind of a limit on how many things we want to have screens for and be connected to. I don't need to have large-scale video on my toaster and my fridge, but you can do that if you really want to. But is it practical?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how much the video option on this device actually gets used that much. I mean, I can see it being useful for podcast or music listening or any of the other functions, but I guess some of the use cases around home security or monitoring elders is how that video gets used on the device, but I don't know if it's something that someone's necessarily going to be interacting with for video calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's to stop them if they have this technology and, Amazon has a TV now to just projecting whatever information you're asking from the robot onto any of the other 5 screens that are probably at your disposal if you own one of these products anyways. To me, having a screen on the robot is kind of a crutch for the robot. He should be a better communicator. At least that's what I'm waiting around for. Someone to talk to. not just another screen.
Well, so the only way I could see myself using this would be for the video calls, but at the same time, it would be kind of nice if, I could allow my parents or brother to kind of take control of the robot and they could maybe wheel it around and it could feel, it could then feel like the person's with you in the home. And that could be, to me, an improvement on video calls. Now you kind of feel like something's in the home. It seems like a lot of money for that. Really, I'll just probably prop my phone up and that will do the job. And also the security concerns.
You could be connected to your pet when you leave.
Right. The remote monitoring thing, maybe, but doesn't need to move around the house looking at stuff. I don't know. So final thing I say, there are a lot of robots out there, which is why I think it's interesting that Amazon's put this out and probably why they're pushing for this, because there are a lot of robots doing a lot of different things. I've got a bunch of examples for you. In 2020, Amazon's got its flying indoor alarm drone, Always Home Cam. That hasn't been launched yet, but they announced it last year. It kind of launches from a base and then will float around the home to check with a video feed in case there's like a potential intrusion. Servy, a robot we talked about recently, I think last week actually on the episode, serves food, and it's a robot waitress. Basically, they have robot waitresses as well, or waiter or waitress. Together restaurant in Beijing, they've had them there for 5 years. Miso Robotics Flippy flips burgers, been doing that for years. Boston Dynamics robot called Stretch, designed to move boxes in warehouses. They can shift up to 800 boxes an hour. Amazon's got its 6-wheel delivery robot Scout. Akara Robotics has Violet, which is a UV cleaning robot that has huge ultraviolet light on wheels that can kill viruses. There's a robotic lab assistant from the University of Liverpool that works 1,000 times faster at conducting experiments, conducting research than people, and can work 22 hours a day, 7 days a week. And a few more for you. Foldymate. This one's so cool. You basically just put clothes into it and it folds them perfectly, regardless of the item, and delivers it. And it's like a big printer, but it's amazing. Nimble and Clockwork, a machine for painting your nails. You don't have to go to the nail salon. You can just put your hand in this machine. And then RC Coffee, which calls itself Canada's first robotic cafe, opened in Toronto last summer. So there's a lot of examples of robots, not so many in the home. And then drone delivery companies, I guess, Matanet, Zipline, Google's Wing, they're still trying to get that initiative off the ground. See what I did there? Little pun. Drone delivery companies.
It's great.
Getting it off the ground.
Really good. Good one.
All right, fair enough. Moving on. So we've got time for the story of the week. It's time now for the game of the week, but first a quick word from our sponsor, New Star. Are you prepared for marketing's next chapter? You won't want to miss Brave New World's 2021, the virtual marketing and analytics event of the year on November 9th and 10th. You can join Brave New Worlds to learn how you can adapt to the forces redefining advertising. It's free, and you'll hear from today's top minds in marketing, data, and analytics, including executives from Facebook, General Motors, Capgemini, Publicis, and more. Go to bravenewworlds.newstar to register today. Folks, we are back. It's time now for the game of the week. Today's game, what's the point? The part of the show where we read out 4 stories and have our contestants, Audrey, Blake, and Ross, tell us what they think is the main takeaway of the story. Okay answers get 1 point, good answers get 2, and Simone Biles level answers get you 3 points. Simone Biles, okay, she has a combined total of 32 Olympic and World Championship medals. So she's the most decorated gymnast ever, and her 7 Olympic medals also ties Shannon Miller for the most Olympic medals won by an American female gymnast.
It's like more medals than the entire UK won in the last Olympics.
It's not more than the... Okay, pretty much, yeah. It's a few more than we have. But don't expect any of those level answers from our panel. We'll see what we can do with... Maybe they'll get the 2 point, the good answers. That's probably our limit. Anyway, that's the game. That's how we play it. You get 20 seconds to answer before you hear this. Whoever has the most points after 4 rounds wins, gets the last word in the championship belt, which is meaningless, but we still hand it out. Let's start with Blake, the creator economy for the first round. A new report from YouTube and Oxford Economics showed YouTube's partner program is supporting 2 million creators, creating the equivalent of nearly 400,000 full-time jobs, notes insider intelligence analyst Daniel Carnahan per Social Media Today. YouTube says it has paid $30 billion to creators, artists, and media companies in the past 3 years, and that its creative ecosystem contributed over $20 billion to US GDP in 2020. It's up 23% on 2019. Blake, contribution from the creator economy, what's the point?
I think that's kind of a nice little summary that really contextualizes how much of an early adopter YouTube was, the fact that they've had this program since like 2007. And YouTube's certainly a format that I think lends itself well to a wide variety of creators, but it will be interesting to see sort of how it fares in the next few years as really popular platforms like TikTok adopt long form video.
Audrey.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway from this is just that being a creator is now effectively a trade. Content creators are kind of publishers in their own way. And being an influencer can be considered a legitimate job in a world where, platforms are now suppliers of genuine opportunity.
Ross.
Just thinking about how the number of journalism jobs continues to decline according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and how these creator jobs are increasing. I wonder if we're going to get to a point soon where there's going to be more people making videos for TikTok and YouTube than there are people investigating truth in the world.
Oh,
I'm sure there already are.
if you leave it up to those scales must have tipped. If you leave it up to kids, that's going to be the world. 3 times as many kids, 8 to 12, said they wanted to be a YouTuber, 29%, than those who wanted to be an astronaut. No, it's a 2019 study from Harris Poll and Lego. As of March 2021, Instagram is the social platform most marketers plan to use for influencer marketing, 93%. TikTok and Facebook each had 68%. YouTube was in 4th place with 48%. We move to our second round. We start with Audrey. Brick and mortar's share of retail. Physical stores will account for 72% of US retail sales in 2024, predicts Forrester, 72%. Marianne Wilson of Chain Store Age notes that according to the research company, the top reasons for shopping in store are to test products, 47%, and being able to leave with their purchase, 38%. Study also found that 41% of folks said online returns were difficult. That's, generous. And over a third said this discouraged them from buying online. Audrey, brick and mortar's share of retail, what's the point?
Yeah, so I really think that this indicates just how much consumer shopping behavior is never really going to be untethered from the physical world. Retailers are just increasingly going to have to pursue the gold standard of the omni-channel customer experience and just aim to deliver experiences across all of those channels, including the in-store experience. And so in more ways, a retailer's digital understanding of the customer is going to inform physical retail too.
Ross.
My takeaway is that most people seem to like shopping much more than I do.
The end.
That's all.
Blake.
I'll give Blake my extra time.
Blake, what you got?
eMarketer is forecasting about 80% of non-e-commerce retail in 2024. I will caveat that by saying that, I'm not sure how other forecasts work, but we include auto sales and gas, which is like a huge chunk. And if you take that away, it leans a little bit closer to e-commerce. But I agree with everything that Audrey said, and Ross, for a matter of fact, because I don't like shopping either. But yeah, just in-store is just always going to be important and can be improved upon with these new omni-channel capabilities that retailers are testing.
We move to our third round and we start with Ross. Noticing ads. 64% of folks often noticed ads on Facebook, according to a recent Statista Global consumer survey, 64%. Instagram was in second place with 41%, and then TikTok was in third with 24%. Snapchat, Twitter and Pinterest were all in the high teens in terms of percentage of people who said that they noticed ads. Ross, noticing ads, what's the point?
Well, a really effective ad is often one that you don't realize is an advertisement. And I believe that people are starting to notice ads more on Facebook because they're becoming more aware of how it works. In the past, a lot of the native ads that you'd see on social platforms, most users didn't really seem to be fully aware that these were advertisements in the traditional sense.
Blake?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the ads that people are noticing, it tends to line up pretty directly with like the user base of these platforms. So it makes sense that the platforms that get the most eyeballs will have the most interest from advertisers. But it also means that, the platforms that are the most popular are the ones that people are noticing ads on because that's where they're spending their time.
Mm-hmm. Audrey?
Yeah, to Ross's point, social platforms are really known for featuring native display ads. And so the best intentions of those types of ads is just that they match the form and feel of other content on the platform. But what I would argue is that probably ads are just more noticeable on Facebook and Instagram because the native ad experiences there tend to be placed in feeds as opposed to, the more full screen experiences that you might see on TikTok or Snapchat, which would have a more...
I pressed the buzzer. I'm so sorry. I jumped the gun. Keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. No, keep going.
Yeah, and so I'd argue that the sort of native ad experiences that you'd see on TikTok or Snapchat would tend to feel more native because they are more commonly full screen mobile experiences versus just being placed in feed.
6% of people said they didn't notice social media ads at all. Who are those people? And why can't I be one of them? We move to our final round and we start with Blake. YouTube expands its social commerce efforts. YouTube is launching YouTube Holiday Stream and Shop on November 15th. a week-long live shopping stream where users can watch popular creators and buy items in-app, notes Insider Intelligence analyst Daniel Konstantinovich. The company is also making its CTV, connected TV viewership inventory, available to advertisers via a partnership with Nielsen as of this month, notes a blog post. Blake, YouTube expanding its social commerce efforts. What's the point?
I think it's kind of a long time coming, in particular with live streams. When I did research for a live stream report I wrote at the very beginning of this year, we found that worldwide YouTube was by far the most popular platform for viewing live streams. It's also a platform where its user base they're used to watching long form video. So I think it actually could really lend itself well to live stream shopping. So I'll be following it with interest.
Audrey.
Really, the biggest takeaway for me from this is just how much YouTube is really trying to get into driving lower funnel conversion with sort of full screen TV ads. So alongside this news about the live stream shopping opportunity on YouTube was the announcement about YouTube making video action campaigns available for CTV, which would effectively let an advertiser running a video ad to do measurable targeted performance advertising on the largest screen in the household. And all of that, makes a video ad on YouTube highly shoppable and cross-device.
Ross.
Of the industries that we forecast ad spending for, retail spends the most on advertising. It's about 1/4 of all ad spending in the US. So a media seller like YouTube, to have the ability to link e-commerce and advertising together is only going to increase their value for both retailers and for advertisers. YouTube's in a great position to do this due to the massive amount of data that they have. Amazon would be another.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Konstantinovich notes that in China, we expect live shopping to drive $300 billion in sales, or 12% of the country's total retail sales. Of that 12%, half will come from streams on social platforms. And in the US, social commerce will reach $36 billion by the end of this year, doubling by 2025. That's what we've got time for the game of the week. This week's winner, a drum roll. No need for the drum roll because none of what you just said mattered. We've got the bonus question that will determine everything. Yay! They were great answers, though. People probably learned a lot. However, it meant nothing because we've got a bonus question. Blake looks furious. So, how...
It's really hard for this. All that work out the window.
Here's the question. Whoever gets closest to this number wins. How fast is the fastest train in the world? In miles per hour, please.
Are we playing Price is Right rules where you can't go over?
I've never seen it before, so I'm going to say no.
Okay, so it's just closest. There's no...
Just
okay.
closest.
Okay.
Yeah. No over or, just the closest.
I'm going to say, wait, do we all have a guess in order? Like in any
everyone
order?
Guesses.
Just random?
Any order. Shout it out.
400.
400.
401.
400. Oh, he's waited. He's
1 mile per hour. Wait, no, not Price is Right. All right, I'm gonna say 300. 300.
Okay. The winner is, and now a drum roll. Audrey!
What?
Congratulations. The L0 series maglev in Japan clocks 374 miles per hour.
Wow.
That's 600 kilometers per hour. That could get you from New York City to Montreal in an hour. Or, if you're on the West Coast, from LA to San Francisco in an hour, which is insane. Why don't we have those?
That was a really good guess. She was so close.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Very impressive. Congratulations to Audrey. She wins this week's Game of the Week. She also gets the championship belt and the final word. Audrey, 30 seconds are yours. What do you want to tell us?
Oh, geez. Okay, well, the thing that popped into my head earlier was this documentary that I just watched on HBO Max, which was about Woodstock 99. I don't know if anyone recalls this. I do not recall it very well. Was, too young at the time to really be paying attention to this, but I was kind of appalled to remember the year of 1999 and the music that was popular at the time. And it was just, an exploration / excavation of why this was a horrible event and why it went so wrong.
We'll check it out.
Did they talk to Limp Bizkit for the documentary?
They did. They talked to I don't know if he was part of the documentary, but he was in the documentary, and the organizers of the event continue to blame it all on him.
On Fred Durst?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
All right, HBO Max. We'll check it out.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Fred Durst. He's yelling, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I've nearly finished Squid Game. One more episode left. So after that, I'll check it out. All right, that's what we've got time for the game of the week. It's time now for Working From Somewhere. The part of the show where we talk about working from somewhere, what it's like to work in this hybrid world. And today we've got an article about the real meaning of freedom at work. What is it? Well, the rise of remote work during the pandemic is just one part of a generational shift that is redefining how and why we do our jobs, writes organizational psychologist at the Wharton School of Business, Dr. Adam Grant, in a recent Wall Street Journal piece. Flexibility is now the fastest rising job priority in the US, according to a poll of more than 5,000 LinkedIn members. Over half of Americans want their next job to be self-employed, entrepreneurs, freelancers, things like that. Folks, the piece covered a lot. I won't go through it. I'll let you guys jump in now. But what was your biggest takeaway from the piece?
My biggest takeaway from the piece was all these people who want to be self-employed. I would look into how difficult health insurance and taxes are before you make that leap. Because like that's a lot of people who really want to take on that type of financial insecurity that comes with freelancing. But my other point is I think that this is officially a topic that has been beat to death, that we've been talking about for like the last like 18 to 19 months about sort of how the pandemic is changing work. And it's like, I think at the end of the day, it's like pretty simple if you just, give your employees the option to do what they want in terms of like a flexible work environment, whether it's, hybrid or permanently remote, just to set yourself up to attract like the most talented people possible. I think that's kind of the name of the game. And then all of the data that we've seen, it shows that, productivity and success sort of comes from that level of accommodation that you can give to your employees. And I think that's kind of where we're at, and we figured it out, and we can maybe stop writing so many articles about it.
Yeah, so what thing that jumped out to me, giving folks more of a voice in what they work on, that was interesting. I don't know how many bosses feel comfortable with that, but I thought it was an interesting note. A few other things that jumped out as well, and just the kind of the nuances of what Blake's talking about, should you be working from home? Should you be working from the office? Should it be hybrid? You're spot on, mate. Like that conversation's it's been talked about, and it seems like flexibility, the most flexibility is the best. But the article pointed to a few nuances, which I thought, and maybe just advice, which I thought was quite interesting. They said, well, number one, when virtual meetings are held in the afternoon, people are less likely to multitask, according to Dr. Grant, who wrote this piece, probably in part because they've already made progress on their own tasks in the morning. Noted that it might be a good idea to coordinate on-site days, so you can do individual work at home, collaborate when you go into the same place. Sounds obvious, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people are, or companies at least aren't doing that, at least the people I've spoken to, some of my friends. Turning off the camera for virtual meetings can help. There was a summer 2020 experiment led by organizational psychologists Kristen Shockley and Alison Gabriel. When employees had the freedom to turn off their camera during virtual meetings, it reduced fatigue, especially for women and new hires who generally face more pressure to monitor their image. I also just found the hide yourself view on Zoom, which is kind of cool. So you can have a chat with somebody without having to, because I don't know about you guys, but at what share of the time you're on a video chat do you find yourself just looking at yourself?
Oh, I hate that. Yeah. I do all my interviews actually just on a phone.
Okay.
I don't want to be looking at myself while I... Yeah.
Right.
Say I'm notorious in meetings for not showing my face.
Right. Well, now you can hide your self view, which I didn't realize on Zoom.
So like, when do we ever do this in normal everyday interaction? Like stare at our own faces while we're talking to somebody? No, it doesn't happen. Right. So why should I do it when I'm on video chat all of a sudden?
Yep. Another finding. Pre-pandemic folks used their mobile devices 9% of the time to connect to their meetings. In a hybrid work environment, that number has tripled to 27%. That wasn't in the article. That was from Cisco's first hybrid work index report. So I thought that was interesting. And then final thing from me, and I'm very guilty of this, but I won't be doing it anymore after having read this. So writing in the Wall Street Journal, Laura Gerge of the London Business School and Vanessa Bonds of Cornell explained that with regards to the urgency of out-of-hours emails, there's a massive gap between senders and recipients. So if you send something after 5 or before 9, after 5 p.m., before 9 a.m., conventional business hours, there's a massive gap between the person who sends it, who's like, I'll just send it, it'll be fine. The person who receives it, who's like blind panic, oh my God, is this really important? In a write-up by Jessica Stillman of Inc.com, she notes that the study found that email receivers overestimated the need for a fast response, something that researchers called the email urgency bias. They found on average, email receivers assumed that they needed to respond 36% faster to off-hours work emails than senders expected, and email receivers felt more stressed by off-hours work emails than senders expected them to feel. The solution: don't send our emails after hours, or you can use your email client's delay or schedule email feature, so they arrive during more conventional hours. Something I always do, I always send it and I'm just like, I'll just send it, I'll get out of my head. But now knowing that people might be panicking when they're probably not, they're probably like, it's Marcus, they can probably go into spam. But I will not be sending them anymore.
I have actually have it set up so when you email me, it automatically goes to spam, which is another feature that you could use.
I love the Sunday emails that I get from Marcus.
Thank you. I know you don't
You're always
mean that, but thanks anyway.
so apologetic, and I always tell you it's totally fine.
Yeah, you're like, you've sent it now, I'm already reading it. What difference does it make? Anyway, that's all we got time for working from somewhere. It's time now for dinner party data. It's the part of the show where we tell you about the most interesting thing we've learned this week. Audrey won the game of the week because she knows everything about trains. That was surprisingly accurate, Audrey.
Yeah, pretty good. I was like, well, it couldn't be 150. But what's the sound barrier?
Oh.
I don't know how
question.
fast that needs to be.
Isn't that 5 to 5? I want to guess 5 to 600.
Yeah, I think it's got to be like, doesn't like a plane travels like 450 to 500, and then like the Concorde got up to like 700 maybe, and that was it, and that clearly broke the
Blake, very good. 770.
See, ask a plane
speed
question next time.
to break the sound barrier. 770, yeah. Yeah. Have you been on Audrey, have you been on the bullet train? I'm assuming that the
never. No.
Oh, okay. I'm assuming.
I used to work for a Japanese company, so maybe I
unbelievable.
have this as common knowledge now.
It's got it as an advantage. All right, your dinner party data. What do you have for us?
So I had found actually some Forrester survey data a couple of weeks ago that I decided to resurrect. I thought it was kind of amusing since there's all this conversation now about the metaverse, since Facebook earnings were earlier this week, and they keep on harping on this being the future of computing and the next computing platform. But essentially, so they surveyed about a little over 1,000 US and UK adults, and basically 56% said, I don't get the metaverse, or I don't want the metaverse to have experiences in the metaverse. So, 29% said, I still don't understand what this is. And 27% said that they have no need for it in their real or their virtual life. And then, kind of interestingly, 41% said that they do want brands to reach them in it. So 22% are saying that they think brands should advertise in the metaverse, even if they seemingly like some percentage of that group even doesn't know what it is. And 19% said that they think that brands should build more branded experiences there. So I just thought that was interesting, since brands are I think, also at this time trying to wrap their heads around what this is and what it even means.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the takeaway for me is. 100% of people in that survey lied, because no one knows what the metaverse is.
Yeah, I mean, that was my feeling too. I mean, they allowed people to pick more than one response, so I'm imagining that like there's some...
I'll check them
There's
all.
probably no overlap between people who are like, I don't know what this is, but also I want brands to reach me there. But.
Right. Huh. Interesting. Very good. Ross, what you got for us, mate?
I learned that former President Abe Lincoln was a star wrestler when he grew up. And he wrestled over 200 matches in Illinois, and he only lost once. So that was something I did not know about this titan of U.S. history.
How did you learn that? How did that come up?
Mentalfloss.com.
There it is. Okay. Did you wrestle in school, in high school?
No, I played basketball.
Basketball. Okay. Wrestling is fascinating to me as a thing over here. We don't have it back in the UK.
And it's really popular like in the Midwest and in some southern states. Not so much here in the Northeast. If you look at like where the best wrestlers in college come from, they tend to be like Iowa State, Oklahoma, that region.
Mm-hmm. We did get your WWF export though, so thank you for the Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. Ross, I know that that's the kind of wrestling you're talking
Oh,
about.
that's
right?
the type of wrestling that I find
That's
interesting.
what he's
But
about. Oh,
Abe
yeah.
Lincoln was doing
He wasn't doing that?
Greco-Roman like you see like
Oh, okay.
in the
He wasn't
Olympics,
doing
like Jordan Burroughs, is a U.S. champion, for instance.
Okay, I'm picturing him as the Undertaker now.
But you have some people who do both, though. Kurt Angle won an Olympic gold in like actual wrestling.
True.
And then he became WWE superstar as Kurt Angle, who was a heel.
Yeah, I do remember that. I remember that time. Or The Rock playing like college football and then going into wrestling.
Well, no, the Steiner brothers were also wrestlers. And
The
Brock
Steiner
Lesnar.
brothers. Now we're talking extra points.
There we go.
For no reason. The game's over. But that's very good data. Thank you for bringing that. It's fascinating. Abe Lincoln, the wrestler. Blake.
You know that gif of the Undertaker like coming out of the coffin ringside? Now, I can't get the image of Abe Lincoln just coming out of the coffin and hopping in the ring now.
They didn't use that in that like Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter series.
They should.
They talk about his wrestling skills.
Gotta get that in the sequel. Get that in the storyline. So we've got Halloween coming up this weekend. So I found some data from YouGov America that found that 10% of Americans refuse to celebrate Halloween. 20% don't really like Halloween. 40% say they like it, but it's not one of my favorite holidays. And 23% of US adults say it's their favorite holiday. So pretty broad,
Pretty mixed.
Exactly. Mixed reception on Halloween. I'm not a huge fan of Halloween, I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah, I haven't liked it since I was like 8.
Yeah.
Well, that was the same data that had two things. One was how old is too old to trick or treat. I think the average was 12. Some people said 18, which is unacceptable. But then also in that data was, what do you do when kids come to your door, an 18-year-old comes to your door and trick or treats? And 2% of people said they answer the door and give them nothing. 21% of people at least didn't answer the door. Most people gave candy, but I want to know who those 2% of people are.
Those 2% of people got their houses egged.
Right.
Yeah. Very good. Good. All right. So I've got another one for you. All the people in your dreams are real people. How insane is that? So when you see faces in your dreams, your brain isn't making them up. They're faces you've seen before, whether it was for a fleeting second at a grocery store or a person you spend every day of your life with. You've seen countless faces throughout your life. So you're not dreaming about random people, you're dreaming about actual people that you've seen. Another way of thinking about it is that there are lots and lots of people who have also seen your face and are randomly dreaming about you.
How do they know? Who's saying
Yeah, what's the
this?
source on this?
Wait, what are you guys doing?
How do they know that we're dreaming about people that we've seen in everyday life?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
1 second.
All right, delete this section. We
No, hang on a second.
We can't have dubious information on this podcast.
It was according to a YouGov survey.
Wait, hang on a second.
I swear I've seen faces in my dreams that I made up. That like I don't.
Yeah. What about like monsters and stuff?
But maybe that guy or that gal that were in my dreams I saw on the subway. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
All
one
right,
of like
this
you
up
can't
now.
prove that this is true. You also can't prove that it's not true.
Yeah.
Like
That's true.
how you're like your mind can't put two faces together. Like that seems like a pretty easy thing for your subconscious to do.
What about faces that we've seen in movies or like the AI generated faces, fake faces?
Right.
Are we dreaming those?
Okay.
Marcus.
Can't find.
Answer the question. It's your data.
No, I can't find this. I didn't dig deep enough. I just was so blown away by it that I just assumed it must be. That must be.
Wait,
how
but
it
you don't know
goes.
where this came from? Or you just saw it randomly?
Yeah, it came from. This is I don't know what university this is. BU.
Boston University. That's not really an accredited university. It's where people go that can't get into BC.
All right, forget. If anyone listeners went to BU, I apologize on behalf of Blake.
I know
okay,
I
maybe
have
don't-
several good friends who went to BU, so I hope they're not listening.
I thought maybe. Oh, no. All right, fair enough. That's all we've got time for today's episode. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to Blake.
Thanks, Marcus. I'll see you in my dreams.
Thank you. Oh, hopefully not. Thank you to Ross.
See you, Marcus.
Thank you to Audrey. She won this week's Game of the Week.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you to Victoria. She edits the show. Thanks to everyone listening. If you've got any questions, hopefully not about my dinner party data, don't send those in. If you want to say hi, though, you can email us at podcast@emarketer.com. Make sure you check out our new Retail by the Numbers rebranded newsletter from eMarketer Insider Intelligence, featuring a fresh look and more daily content. The newsletter will share insights, trends, and forecasts into retail, e-commerce, and major players in the industry. Sign up on the Insider Intelligence website. We'll see you guys hopefully on Monday for the Behind the Numbers Daily, eMarketer podcast made possible by Newstar. Happy weekends.